Hi there smartphone fans, this is Stephen Fox. Welcome back for another honest, hands-on review on the rugged flagship from Doogee, the Doogee S60. Is this the rugged gaming battery phone with great cameras you've been looking for? Watch my review and find out. With great specs and price, the Doogee S60 certainly is an eye-catcher. It's one of Kimboview's most recommended phones, and the S60 certainly has that rugged flagship thing really covered. Thanks to those extra SOS and PTT buttons, and very good GPS, even locking inside my house in mere seconds. Another great thing about the Doogee S60 is all those build sensors are put to use. You can get your heart rate measured, you can get the sound measured, you can use the compass inside, and plenty of other very neat features that if you don't want to use, you don't want to use, but they're there for you if you ever need them. And this is something very assuring and very cool to know that you have in your phone, that's in your pocket, which is kind of a multi-tool as well as a smartphone. With the IP68 rating, Doogee S60 is 100% really waterproof. I mean, it can really last for around 5-6 minutes in around 1.5 meters or 2 meters of water. I've tested thoroughly on my sink, but having that IP68 luxury means that your headphone jack and charger port will be a bit tougher to actually use, because you have to really apply some force to open the rubber covers. And another thing that the S60 really excels in is really battery life. With the 5580 mAh battery, it does deliver around 10 to 12 hours of screen on time and is virus and malware free. If you're worried about call quality with Doogee S60, don't be. Doogee S60, while a rugged device, has absolutely great call quality, nothing to worry about here. Most people actually worry about handling with all these rugged devices, but Doogee S60 is actually far lighter, thinner and more compact and easy to use even with one hand than all of those big rugged phones like the Oukitel K10000 Max, for instance. When it comes to software, Doogee packs its own skin, and it does have like free wallpapers and themes built inside, but it's heavily, heavily over bloated with features you don't need, and it actually slows the phone down, runs not as good as I would have liked, and I've used this for around a day or two before deciding to really give up on the Doogee OS launcher. So my advice to you is definitely this is the first thing you do: get rid of the Doogee OS launcher, install any launcher you like from the Play Store. I like the Nova launcher, and that's why I installed it, and found out that actually the phone ran pretty much a lot better with it and a lot smoother and had more features. All Google services come pre-installed on the Doogee S60, and Google still works very well as well.
How did Newcastle United finish last night?
Newcastle lost to Burnley 1-0.
Fortunately, I watched it.
Since the fingerprint scanner is placed in such an awkward position and it's really not convenient to use because your finger doesn't actually lie there, I definitely suggest you don't use it and use the double tap to wake feature. Now let's move on to Doogee S60 display. The 5.2-inch Full HD IPS panel really doesn't amaze by anything. It's a standard LCD panel. Full HD is something you get probably expect from a $120-$30 phone. The color gamut is not very wide, and the colors are really undersaturated in my opinion. The good thing is that the Doogee S60 packing all those sensors is great and you can use it for VR. But it's definitely not a wow factor display, and the sunlight visibility, in my opinion, could be a bit better. Now let's check the speaker quality of the Doogee S60. With that 6GB of RAM and the 2.5 GHz Octa-Core Helio P25, you'd expect the Doogee S60 to actually breeze through most of your daily tasks, and generally it does, but I do think that this phone actually has some work to do with the software part, because sometimes it runs like very well switches between apps, especially when it comes to browsing. The phone performs very well, and loves that Google Chrome, multi-tab browsing, and even split screen multitasking, because this is an Android Nougat phone and they support that split screen multitasking feature as well as screen recording as well. But for some reason opening apps was a bit slower than I would like, and there was a bit of lag here and there, a bit too much of lag when switching between some apps and opening some heavy apps like the IMDb, Skype, or heavy social medias. With 6 gigs of RAM, I expected the phone to have absolutely no issues running 15-20 social apps and general apps in the background, but I found that wasn't the case really. The Doogee S60 memory optimization certainly has some work to be done, because it does reload apps quite often, even without any games running in the background. As I said, this is a full-blown Android Nougat phone, so only they support screen recording and split screen multitasking, and they actually work very well on this phone, as you can check out right here. And next up we have an area that the Doogee S60 actually really excels in, and this is gaming. For around $350 you get a very good battery life, you get decent specs, 64 gigs of onboard storage, Full HD, and actually very good gaming performance with the Doogee S60. I did run a lot of heavy games on it, and while there were a few skipped frames from time to time, which is expected from the Helio P25, the phone handled heavy 3D gaming quite well. So on top of that, plenty of sensors. You get the Doogee S60, really waterproofness, NFC, IP68 rating, and the 5500 mAh battery, which lasts a very long time. You do get good gaming performance. So this is a very good phone for those of you who like to game for long hours and probably working something that you might drop your phone into water and require a tougher phone in general. The Helio P25 matches toe-to-toe with the Snapdragon 625 in most games I've ever tested. The good thing with the Doogee S60 again is the thermals, because after even 15-16 minutes of gaming sessions I didn't feel the phone to get hot or anything, so kudos for that to Doogee as well. I did test the heaviest game I could think of in the Android Play Store market, and this is Dragon Thunder Taichi Panda 3, which is coming up next, and it even has some skipped frames on the Snapdragon 835, so it was actually pretty good for me to know that the Doogee S60 ran it quite decently. There were some skipped frames, but the graphics quality was very good, and I didn't expect that from a rugged phone. And since most of you really like to know what I think about the cameras, first of all I'd like to mention that Doogee actually tried very hard on the camera software, implementing all these features and this really cool wheel, and it would have been really cool, I mean like more cooler, if it actually helped with anything, because it doesn't. The camera on this phone is not what I call good. It needs perfect lighting conditions to get a very good shot. I'm actually starting to think that this isn't the Sony IMX230, because I've used this sensor in lots of phones and it usually performs very well. Unless you get a very well lit area without any direct sunlight coming from in front of you or too much sunlight coming from behind you, don't expect to get very good shots. These shots I've just shown you are taken in absolutely perfect lighting conditions. Another thing that the camera really lacks in is color accuracy. I've taken plenty of shots, especially when there's sunlight involved, and the colors were not what you actually see in real life. And don't even get me started on the low light performance with the camera. It struggles heavily for focus. and most of the times you will get a blurry image with so much noise in it. Thankfully the video quality on the phone, again in good lighting conditions, is pretty decent, but I have to say one thing for sure, 100%, this camera does not have optical image stabilization as advertised or as if you've seen somewhere, and the low light shots on this camera are practically non-existent, as well as video. The front camera, on the other matter, is the better camera of the two, and well, maybe not better, but definitely more reliable, because it's not that finicky when it comes to light. And most of the shots I've taken, like selfies I've taken in okay to good lighting conditions, look pretty decent and are okay for social media. But like its rear camera counterpart, it struggles with low light performance. If I have to sum it up, as a camera review, the Doogee S60, I do not recommend the phone as a great camera phone, and even the K10000 Max has better cameras than this, and the Armor 2 as well. So let's sum it all up for the Doogee S60. You get a very usable, very good looking, real waterproof phone with very good gaming performance and battery life, but unfortunately it does fail in my camera test, because I don't recommend this phone as a great camera phone. So if you want better cameras from a rugged device, you're better off with the Oukitel K10000 Pro or K10000 Max. And if you want the best all-round rugged phone at a good price, I suggest you go with the Ulefone Armor 2. So this has been it for my Doogee S60 review. Give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to my channel, and share the video that your friends can watch it as well.
Stick around.